Pressure doesn't just reveal leadership, it reshapes it. And too many of us as leaders, we are operating at full speed while silently carrying stress and overload and emotional fatigue and constant pressure, that constant pressure to perform. But what if the answer isn't pushing harder? What if the answer to smarter leadership under pressure begins when we stop, recalibrate, and respond differently? Come on, let's go ahead and get this conversation started. Welcome to Transformation Station Leadership Podcast, where leadership, mindset, resilience, and transformation come together to help leaders like you and I grow from the inside out. I'm your host, Adrienne Benton, and today we're diving into a timely and powerful conversation. That's right, we're talking about stop, drop, and roll. Now, not what you normally think of when you hear stop, drop, and roll, but we're talking about a smarter way to lead under pressure. I'm super excited because today we have an amazing guru, a guest, Nell, who's with us. She is going to bring valuable insight into resilience and how we can move forward from reactive survival mode into intentional grounded leadership. But before we get into this great conversation, guess what? We need to celebrate today. Are you ready? Let me tell you what we're celebrating. All right, where's the drum roll? Listen, because of your faithfulness to our community, that's right, we're celebrating 6,000 podcast downloads. Do you realize that right now in May, we have just reached 1 year of Transformation Station Leadership Podcast being live? And I want to thank you. But here's the deal. We're in season 4. So this is just the beginning. We've only just begun, which means if you have missed even one episode of season 1, 2, and 3, I need you to go back. That's right. Go back and catch the replays, get caught up, and then don't keep this goodness to yourself. Be sure to share Transformation Station Leadership Podcast with others in your network, because you always hear me say, the community that learns together, what do? We grow together as leaders. I also want to remind you on that note, every month we have our monthly Lead Her Shift webinar. This month, coming up in June 21st, we have Dr. Melanie Gray, who is going to be our guest presenter, and we're going to be talking about how to stop the overwork cycle. I know that this is a community conversation that you want to be a part of, and I'm going to invite you. Register today. You'll see the link in the description box, or you can go to mobilizingwithimpact.com and register. But don't come by yourself. I need you to bring at least 2 other women leaders with you so that we can have a great discussion. I also want to remind you of another upcoming event, because we believe the community that prays together sees miracles together. And so we have the Mobilizing Prayer Circle. Our first one in June is going to be June 7th. It's going to be at 8 p.m. CET, that's European time, which is 2 p.m. EST and 1 p.m. CST. Why don't you join us so that we can come, share, encourage one another, and again, we can grow together. And then finally, I want to remind you, guess what? Every week you are able to watch and listen to Transformation Station Leadership Podcast every Monday and Wednesday. We invite you to join. So what that means is, even right now, you can hit that subscribe button on YouTube. You can hit that subscribe button on LinkedIn, on Facebook, follow, because you don't want to miss any of these episodes, because every conversation we have is a crucial leadership conversation like the one we're having today. And speaking of, here is Nell. I want to introduce you to her. Nell helps leaders to pause long enough to see what's draining them. Nell helps leaders to release what no longer serves us and helps us to redesign our efforts so that impact compounds instead of erodes. Her core frameworks, including stop, drop, and roll, and 3D leadership, me, we, world, they give people like us a practical way of doing less, a practical way to do less, matter more, and lead without burning ourselves out or shrinking our lives. It is my honor at this time to welcome Nell. We are so glad that you are here with us. Welcome to Transformation Station Leadership Podcast.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. And I have to say congratulations. It's a big landmark. So well done on getting this important message out. I'm so glad to hear that it's catching on.
Yes, thank you so much. So, now as I was preparing for this episode, I was thinking to myself that many of us as leaders, over the years, we learn how to master productivity, right? But we don't tend to master sustainability. And I have found for myself that there's the challenge with sustained pressure is that as a leader, I can become so accustomed to operating at a high speed, it's almost encouraged that so many times I will stop recognizing the signs of emotional fatigue, of cognitive overload until it's too late. So I want to start off by asking you this question. Our community here, we're talking to high performing leaders, right? So now, from your experience, why do many high performing leaders feel burned out even when things are working?
Yeah. Well, it's an important place to start, and that's exactly what Stop, Drop, and Roll gets at. So we'll get there. But in the meantime, I think you really called it. We're rewarded for always doing more. We're encouraged to do more. Our systems
Mhm.
incentivize that. And so we're not idiots. We want to succeed in all the ways, right? I know in your community too, as well as the people I work with, not only do we want to succeed from kind of a career path and a financial perspective, but also from an impact perspective. We want to leave the world a better place, right? And so we have learned that more is better, number one. And number two, that it's normal to feel exhausted and burnt out. I just had a back and forth with another friend who's also an author and a coach and writes about a lot of these themes. And we were sharing this experience that a lot of women leaders we had talked with about subtraction in my case, or what's not working in her case, reveal that they have like a bald spot or that they've been losing hair for some amount of time. And she and I were like, sorry, pause, stop the presses. Like, that is not normal. So either there's a health thing going on, which they're both pretty, midlife, active, healthy folks, or we've got to look at what's really happening. So that's kind of where we are. I have really started to notice this sandwich factor that I want to just share briefly because I think it's helpful to recognize it. We talk about the sandwich generation, right? And so there's aging parents and there's kids coming up, and so that might feel like a squeeze for many people. True. The sandwich I'm talking about is different. What I've seen and understood is that, things are changing so fast, right? You might have heard today is the slowest rate of change that you will ever live because tomorrow is going to be faster the next day, the next day, the next day. And so what that means is that a lot of things, a lot of systems, a lot of habits, a lot of our processes are out of date by definition, not for anyone's fault, but just by definition, when things change that fast, our systems can't keep up, right? So that's kind of the past. We have this burden, this pile of outdated systems and processes. Then, if we look toward the future, we have AI pushing down this phenomenal proliferation of intel and tools and practices that we need to sort through.
Yes.
Because not all of them are good or helpful, but they are proliferating faster than ever before, right? And so we have the sandwich of outdated things that no longer work that we need to sort through and cut the wheat from the chaff. And then we have this onslaught of new things coming that we need to discern which work and which don't. And so we don't get good at subtracting, at cutting away the ones that are helpful. We're going to drown.
Wow. Right now, here at Transformation Station, we always invite our leaders to stop and assess. And so I want to invite all of our leaders that are listening and watching. Nell has just really shared some really deep wisdom with us. Wisdom in terms of these are words for us to really stop and assess where we are in our life, how we are living. Are we living in the present? What do we need to remove or release? Is there anything that is diminishing you and your progress, how you live on purpose right now? And so we invite you to, even at this moment, go ahead in the comment section and share with us not only where you're watching or listening from, but share with us what's resonating with you. What's coming to your mind as you're hearing Nell share this with you? So now I want to ask you this question. What do you mean by diminishing returns in leadership and life?
So this is a law of economics. People may have studied it in school. Usually it gets illustrated by a farmer. Maybe not the most top of mind thing for a lot of us right now. But anyway, work with me. It's a pretty simple example.
Yes.
So imagine we have a farmer and she wants to increase her revenue, right? And so she's got to increase her crops. And so the land next to her land comes available. And so she says, okay, great, I'll grab that land and then I can grow more. Well, it doesn't take an expert farmer to recognize that if she doesn't have more seeds to plant the apples or the corn or whatever she might be growing, that land will just sit fallow.
Correct.
And even if she has the seeds, if she doesn't have helpers or time in her day to harvest the apples or the corn, they'll just drop and rot and not create more revenue, right? And so the point of diminishing returns is that you can, if you keep adding or investing in a single dimension, right? She invested in the land, but not the seeds and the help, you have less and less return on that investment. And so as professionals, we tend to invest one-dimensionally in our work or even in a single direction in our work. I'll work more hours. I'll send email more quickly. I'll hire more people. I'll get more customers, right? But all in this one dimension. Unfortunately, the more we do, the less impact it has. And so by the time we get to maybe 30 or 40, and we've been adding and adding and adding, we're hitting that ceiling of diminishing returns. And by the way, the same can be true in our personal lives, right? We decide, okay, I'm going to do yoga and meditate and breathe and eat more protein and drink more water and do a cold plunge and also rub out my muscles with a stone, whatever you've been told to do. Look, all of those things might be great, but all of them together probably start to have diminishing returns.
Okay, so listeners and viewers, you're listening, you're watching, talking about diminishing returns. Tell us, what's coming to your mind? Where are you being called right now to pay attention as you're hearing this conversation? Now, what does it mean to see leadership as a living system instead of a to-do list? I think you were starting to go in that direction, but take us there. What is it?
So Adrienne, really, it's recognizing reality.
Okay.
Because especially as women, or again, people who have a holistic view of our life, our spirituality, our work, our wellness, we understand that it is not a production line. We are not putting something on to be molded and folded and assembled and labeled and neatly shipped off to the customer. That is not what our jobs look like. That is not what our lives look like, right? We get up a certain way. We have a certain breakfast. We have a certain commute. All of that influences how we show up in that first meeting of the day. And so this is the systems change shift. Again, it's just recognizing the reality that especially in this moment of globalness, of complexity, of chaos, of opportunity, of crisis and multiple crises, everything is interconnected. And while initially that might feel a little bit overwhelming or unnatural because we've been taught this industrial era, black, white, if then way, which is false if we're looking closely. Once we appreciate, once we get the habit of this systems thinking, it unlocks all this opportunity.
Mhm. Mhm.
because we recognize that if we have breakfast a certain way, whether that's when we eat, what we eat, who we eat with, who we buy what we eat from,
Right.
all of those things that we're going to do anyway
Mhm.
can ripple into the rest of the day and make that first meeting better.
Mm.
And so now instead of saying, I should eat protein for breakfast, I should buy it from the local farmer's market, not a multinational conglomerate that's, extracting resources from populations I care about. I
Mhm.
should eat at 6 a.m. right when I get up. If we realize, you know what, I have a long commute, I actually don't mind eating a nicely boiled egg from the farmer's market in my car on the way. It saves me a bit of time, keeps me sane. I make them all on Sunday, and that's great, right? Like that's a very mundane example, but that's an example of this systems thinking. Of course, I don't know all of your leaders and listeners' work, but there
Mhm.
are far more complex ones that they're handling every day, of supply chain to customer to packaging complication and technology to AI and management. Again, the important thing is to recognize the reality that all of that is interconnected and leverage your influence accordingly.
And leverage. I love that. As you were talking, what's been coming to my mind is that when we talk about a system, in the day to day, for me, it's like I hear you saying, like, it's the ongoing management of life. It's the ongoing management. I mean, if you're going to go from a professional standpoint, of people, right? Of the organization, of the mission, of the climate, the team culture that you have. If
Yep.
you're looking at your personal life, of your energy, of how you communicate, of trust, that the trust that is built, right? Of your emotional balance. Matter of fact, I think of living system. A living system requires balance. It requires awareness. You have to be
Mhm.
aware. So many leaders get tripped up because they get so laser focused and they stop being aware of what's happening around them. It requires adaptation, right? We have to learn how to be flexible, like when you step forward, when you step back, and let your people, you've given them the training, let them go ahead and lead, right?
Yeah.
And so, leaders, we're talking about living systems instead of a to-do list. And I love that because, when you think of a to-do list, it's very mechanical. I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, right? But if we're talking about sustainability, then there has to be something that connects the internal and the outternal, right? To
Yeah.
help us to be able to have outcomes as well as a human focus at the same time.
Yeah.
So, leaders, again, we invite you to pause right here and stop and assess. We're talking about living system. What living system works for you? Tell us about that, right? Nell talked about getting up in the morning and having breakfast and eating a certain breakfast and buying it from a certain place. This system that is productive and enables you to be productive personally and professionally.
Yeah.
So now I'm curious about this, right? The title of our episode today is Stop, Drop, and Roll, right? So what does stop, drop, roll mean in the context of leadership under pressure?
Mm. Well, we've been demonstrating it so beautifully. I have heard on your episodes in the past, which is why I was really excited for today, this approach you have of stopping in between every question and really encouraging people to be honest with themselves and really think about, my phrase is, how is it actually going?
Mm.
And this is simple, but not always easy. It can be hard to be honest with ourselves, not because we're jerks, but
Right.
because the infrastructure of the inputs that is coming at us is so robust and well-funded and powerful, right? You're talking about the best behavioral scientists in the world, the best engineers and coders and marketers, and trillions of dollars suggesting that more is better. And so exactly that practice that you have here of stop
Mm.
and not like go off and meditate on the mountain with the monks. That is
Right.
a beautiful thing if that's your jam. But that's not what I mean by stop. And it's not what I hear you doing for people here, which is such a gift. It's normalizing this data collection, right? It's
Mm.
essentially data collection. To use my earlier example, is my hair literally falling out?
Mm.
Because that's probably some data that I should pay attention to.
Mhm.
Maybe it's my shampoo, but maybe it's that I'm overworking, right?
Mhm.
And so we stop in different ways. Some of these can be pretty small, but some of them need to be a little meatier. They're going to take, You want to sit for 10 minutes. You want to have an hour, maybe once a month, or a half day once a quarter, to really look. How's my body? How's my revenue? How are my reviews? How are customers responding to me? How's my team culture? Right? Whatever these things are. But it requires shutting out the outside world for a minute and actually coming back to you and your knowing about how things are going.
Mm.
And it's only after that stop, that baseline data collection, that we
Yes.
try the drop. Right?
Mm.
Drop can be scary. Again,
Mm.
we've been rewarded for however many decades we've been marching around this planet to do more,
To yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially as women or otherwise under-recognized folks. We know we got to do twice as much. We got to do it backwards in heels, right? And so the idea of dropping anything is scary. Am I going to disappoint somebody? Is somebody going to critique me? Am I going to drop a ball?
Mm-hmm.
Totally fair. And I would suggest go back to your data. Is your hair falling out, literally or figuratively? Because if so, the risk is not in dropping something, the risk is not, right? It's your point about sustainability. You got to let something go.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
drop. Finally, the role is this systems thinking that we were just getting to. It's connecting the dots. It's seeing that by virtue of having released something, I have some more energy. I
Mm-hmm.
have some more time. I have some more capacity. And we can only improve things when we have available capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just a truism. That's not an opinion or a trend. That's just a
Right.
truism. And so when we make some available capacity, we can start rolling. We can start seeing these ripples of, gosh, a better breakfast makes me happy, makes my muscles work and my brain work well, sends me into that first meeting. Again, this is a goofy example, but maybe I mention how delicious my breakfast was. Maybe that inspires my team to take 5 more minutes to get the breakfast they need or to go have a healthy lunch. Plus, it
Mm-hmm.
reveals a little personal vulnerability or quirk, which builds our trust and our working
Yes.
relationship, right? So again, this is not rocket science. You can apply it to your technical, complex professional lives, but I just like to show it at a very simple level to show how, we intentionally took this from childhood fire safety. Stop, drop, and roll. One
Yes.
syllable each. Simple, clear. But this is the way that we make subtraction a practice, that we build the muscle over and
Yes.
over and over again to counteract that normalized overwork, which is not sustainable.
Stop, drop, and roll. You're listening, you're watching. How can you apply that so that you're able to move forward under pressure in a way that truly represents who you are and you aligning with the value that you bring every single day? A best practice that I was thinking of now is for leaders, we can pause before making major decisions, especially during high stress moments, to assess our emotions, our priorities, and long-term impacts. The transformation station, they've heard me use this example, but I sometimes you get emails, and because you can't hear, because you can't see, you read the email, and sometimes you will read it and you get triggered by it. And
That must be you, Adrienne. I've never had that experience.
I've learned that when that happens, not to respond right away. I had a colleague I was talking to, and I was telling them how frustrated I was about an email, and they said, "Stop. You need to just stop, pause, walk away, walk outside, and then come back and reread it." And when I did that, I came back and reread it. I realized that the tone that I had initially perceived was really not in the email. I was already frustrated by something else, and I put into it the tone that I was already playing in my head, right? And so, when we talk about pausing before major decisions, leaders, it's really important that you give honest and authentic space. When you are in a high stress moment, give it space and room to be what it is, and then seek to ask what is true. That's why the pause is important. What is true about this scenario? What is true about this person? What is true about this situation? And then what really needs to be my response, or what really needs to happen next? Not how do I feel, right? What do you
Yeah.
think about that?
I completely agree. I think it's so important. And I think you're getting at, I just want to underline this idea of there's really two steps there, right? And one is that kind of emotional regulation, right? Like just the neuroscience, the physiology that we know about a breath, which we
Mm,
know screens create screen apnea. They
mm,
looking at a screen results in us breathing more shallowly and our
mm,
brain literally not getting the oxygen it needs to function at its best, right? It's not,
mm.
again, we're not dumb or silly or emotional. We are human beings with a
Yes,
body. We can forget that sometimes. And so there's a
yes.
very basic physiology at work. So that's
Mm.
step one for sure, especially if it's a big trigger, right? But it's always a good idea to breathe, in my opinion.
Very true. Very true.
Part two then is that data collection. And I think this can be helpful, right? Because I see, again, high achieving, impact seeking, big hearted, ambitious leaders all the time who can look at this breath stuff or this pause or mindfulness as like a nice to have, and I kind of get it, but things are coming fast. I have a lot of people, I have a lot of demands. It's scary out there. It's hard. There's a lot of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And so to recognize that you're collecting data, I think makes it mean something, makes it meaningful and productive in a way that I think can be really helpful to recognize. Step one, yes, just get to ground, get some oxygen. But step two, get some data. And this doesn't necessarily mean a regression of the last 4 years of sales data on 32 spreadsheets with, 10 sheets each. But even just, why did I lose my breath right now? Is that anger? Is that from something else? Is it from that person? Is it from this issue? Is it from my breakfast or lack of breakfast?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
both of those are really critical in stop. Kind of first, just a basic emotional physiological regulation, but then being really intentional about that data you're actually seeking.
I love this. I love this. I love this. So I'm going to ask you two more questions, right? How can we as leaders, how can we lead with clarity when everything around us feels chaotic? And before you answer, I just want to, put the elephant in the room to rest, right? In terms of we are living in a day and age where go, 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 go. There's so many demands and distractions that are happening around us before we even really look at inside of us, right? But as leaders, we're trying to lead authentically. We're trying to lead. We're trying to take care of our families. We're trying to, take care of ourselves. Like, how can we lead with clarity when everything around us is go, 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 go?
Mm. So we have to make it a practice, and we have to cultivate whether stop, drop, and roll works for you or whether it's something else or a combination of things. We have to build a practice which is based on first making the choice
Mm,
of how we want to live.
mm-hmm,
Because I recognize that there are some bad bosses out there. I
mm-hmm,
recognize that we are embedded in a pretty extractive and problematic form of capitalism right now. Of
yeah.
course, there are exceptions, there are organizations, there are teams, and it's where we all are right now, right? So I don't encourage opting out. I'm also not really a revolution person, I'm an evolution person. And so
Mm-hmm,
I see that there are very real challenges and headwinds macro globally to us and in our organization and in our team, right? I get that. And regardless of any of those outside circumstances, we always have agency over how we react.
mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
And so it's just a choice. Do you
Mm,
want to live wrapped up in the chaos? Or do
mm,
you want to work toward, not be perfect at, not master, not get 100 and a gold star every
mm,
moment of every day,
I see.
but do you want to work toward a more grounded, breathing,
Mm-hmm,
medium term, responsible form of stewardship for the
mm,
people and the team and the community and the businesses that you care about?
yes. Yes. I like that word stewardship.
Mm.
That's an investment you're making in yourself, an investment you're making in your community, right? I love that word
100%.
right there.
And it's the last piece, with some people who really are holding on tight to all of it and their importance and their power, which again comes from a big-hearted place. Everybody I work with shares
Mm,
that. Sometimes what it takes is to say, is this how you want your daughter to live?
Wow.
Because she's watching. And whether
Yep.
it's a niece or a goddaughter or a mentee or a son or a cousin, they are
Mhm.
watching.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And so if you feel okay about modeling this frenzied craze, that's your choice.
Mm.
But my guess is you don't.
Yeah. Leaders, you're listening, you're watching, go ahead, tell us in the comment section what's resonating with you right now. What is resonating with you? This is a true master class that we have received today from Nell. So now I want to, as we turn the corner on this conversation, I am going to ask you to one more time just deposit into our community. What is one mindset shift that leaders can make immediately to lead more effectively under pressure?
Mm. Subtract unhelpful thinking.
Mm. Mm.
We've all got it.
Mhm.
We don't write it down on our to-do list.
Mm.
We
Yep.
don't block it on our calendar.
Mm.
But it drains so much. First, it just takes time, right? It's cognition, so it's occupying our little neurons up there.
Mm.
But also, it doesn't make us feel good. It's not an energy boost. It's not a confidence builder. It's not a generosity generator.
Mhm.
And so just that example you gave of seeing this email and reacting and then spinning into the unhelpful thinking, you're a wise person. These are all wise people listening. We
Mhm.
know if we're being honest with ourselves when it goes from helpful, thoughtful consideration and self-awareness, right? I'm very much in favor of that.
Mhm.
And when it spins into rumination, that is
Mhm.
not helpful.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, I bet we could find in a session together some meetings, some tasks, some responsibilities, some identities to let go of. But in the meantime, I just invite you to have that little filter and check in maybe every time you see something red or every time you open your inbox or
Mhm.
hit send, just check in. Is there any unhelpful thinking right now that I could just let go of and save myself some energy that would be better used for something
Mhm.
more impactful?
I love that. Community, we have been invited to check in with ourselves, going back to having that balance where we are aware. Hear yourself when you talk. Allow yourself to process what your thoughts are. Check yourself when that's, Nell, I call it stinking thinking. Check yourself when that stinking thinking tries to raise up, right? And lead you. No, 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 no. We're not listening to this today, right? We have the ability to reframe. This has been such a powerful conversation that we've had today. And I want to thank you so much for reminding us that we can regularly check in, we can regularly assess, and we can regularly move forward. Nobody's perfect, but we can be progressive. And so I know that there are listeners and viewers that want to learn more about Stop, Drop, Roll, want to learn more about the resources that you provide. What's the best way for us to be able to engage with you after this episode?
Yeah. So my homepage is nell3d.com and everything is there about my speaking. This conversation will pop up there. Everything is there. And there's a link out to my Substack called Subtract to Succeed, which is really my laboratory where I'm playing with all of this. And so I'm really happy to share a guest pass. People can get full access. There's a mini course about subtraction if you want to kind of get the theory behind this. And this summer, I am running a summer school. So it's really light, free, low touch. Each day there's a song, and I just choose a lyric from the song. So if you want to just dance along, you can do it that way, or there's always an invitation to get a little more thinky into it, but not stinky thinky, helpful thinky.
I love it. I love it. 1000%. Well, listen, Transformation Station, you see the link on the screen. It's also in the description box. You know what we do. We like to support our guests. So I'm inviting everybody to go ahead and click on the link. I'm inviting you right now to go ahead and contact Nell. Let her know that you heard this episode. Share with her what has resonated with you. She's willing to give you a free pass. Go over to the Substack, support, learn. Let's continue to grow together. Nell, it has been an honor to host you here, to have you with us. And thank you. Truly, I thank you for adding such incredible value to our community here. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Adrienne. It was a beautiful conversation.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I want to again say thank you to Nell. She shared insightful and practical wisdom on leading under pressure with greater clarity, resilience, and intentionality. This conversation reminds me that pressure many times is unavoidable, but burnout, how we react, constant survival mode does not have to become the standard. And if today's conversation encouraged you, which I know that it did, if today's conversation challenged you, if today's conversation gave you tools to lead more effectively, then I'm inviting you right now, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, click that share button and share this episode with another leader that you know right now needs stop, drop, and roll, needs this conversation. So until next time, remember 6,000 podcast downloads. Let's keep the numbers going by making us a truly international and global community. Don't forget to join us on June 21st for our next Lead Her Shift webinar and on June 7th for our next Mobilizing Prayer Circle. So until next time, keep growing, keep leading, and keep transforming from the inside out.